What do you want to be when you grow up? It's a question we love to ask kids. A friend of mine who teaches kindergarten once asked her kindergarten class that same question. What do you want to be when you grow up? The kids fired off answers like a firefighter, a teacher, a doctor, a ballerina, a race car driver, a superhero. That got her curious. A superhero? So what's your superpower? Her students shrugged their shoulders and said, I don't know yet. I've been an educator for 30 years. I've taught preschool to high school. I've been a parent educator, and for the last 20 years, I've had the pleasure of teaching teachers. And I've discovered at any age, we're all wondering that same thing. What is it inside of us that we might use to contribute to the world around us? I love to learn. And I especially love to learn when I can find a way to share it with others. And I also like to leave people just a little bit better than when I found them, brighten their day a bit, whether it's the person at the cash register at the grocery store or one of my students. And it's only in the past 7 years or so that I've really discovered that about myself and began to appreciate it. I guess I want to share with you today what I finally figured out. I finally realized that to really make an impact, and we all want to do that, right? To really make an impact, we have to stop chasing who the world is telling us to be and start embracing our innate ways of being. We need to be awakened, nurtured, and empowered to appreciate, discover, and really understand and lean into our own ways of being. We need to discover our own superpowers. We live in a world right now where we're given constant messages of comparison and shoulds, which leads us to this idea that we're something to be fixed, or that we need to be something a little bit different than we already are. I want to push back against that. I think that those messages cause us to think about we're needing to fix our weaknesses, that we're something that we need to figure out what it is inside us that is wrong rather than figuring out what's inside of us that we might be able to change. Donald Clifton, the father of strengths psychology, says, what would happen when we start looking at what's right in people rather than fixating on what's wrong with them? I mean, I don't look at my dog and say, really good barking, but how are those quadratic equations coming? No, I don't look at my dog and wish he was more like a cat or more like a fish. I look at my dog and all I need him to be is a dog, who he was created to be, who he was meant to be. Sometimes I think we're so fixated on this idea of weaknesses and digging deep and this idea of no pain, no gain. These messages that if it's not blood, sweat, and tears, it's not really worth something. I'm not saying we shouldn't work hard, but why should we work hard against our natural way of being? I think we downplay our own value and strengths. I think sometimes if something does come easy to us, it's easy to push it aside and not really think about it because it's so a part of who we are, we don't even realize it. We don't even see it in front of us. It's really easy to not think it's worth anything. Carolyn Caldwell says, we live in a world that profits from our self-doubt. And then she goes on to say, liking yourself is a rebellious act. Let me say that again. We live in a world that profits from our self-doubt, and liking ourselves is a rebellious act. So you know what I think? I think we should all be rebels. How do we do that? Well, we start by opening our eyes and waking up, being awakened to our natural, innate ways of being. Get curious. Ask your parents. Ask your parents to tell you stories about when you were little. What were those things that you loved doing that they had to call you to dinner 100 times because you lost track of time and just enjoyed what you were doing? Ask them to tell you what your teachers said about you when you were younger. What was written on your report card in the comment section? What do your coworkers or your bosses or your friends say about you? Each of those stories will give you insights into those natural ways of being, your natural superpowers. You can also take some assessments. I love taking personality assessments like the Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, or even some inventories like colors or the leadership compass. One of my favorites is Gallup-Clifton Strengths. Gallup defines a strength as near perfect performance of talent, and talent as your natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving productively applied. It gives this beautiful list of 34 themes, 34 different ways that you might be successful, 34 different gifts and strengths. And sometimes it's things you might not realize are even strengths. Things like empathy, things like analytical, things like focus and futuristic, things like empathy and developer and includer. Beautiful words to describe beautiful ways of being. I want you to close your eyes for a second. And I'm a teacher, so I will wait till everyone has closed their eyes. And I want you to picture the past week. Picture a time when you were firing on all cylinders, when you felt like things were falling into place, you lost track of time, and you were successful. Open your eyes. That gives you a glimpse of your natural talents, your natural way of being. Sometimes it's right there in front of us, we don't even see it. It's like the fish is the last one to discover the water. We're sometimes the last one to discover our talents, and we don't even realize their talents. Remember how I told you I like to chit-chat with the grocery store attendant, checkout person? I found out that's actually a strength of positivity in play. Who knew that just my way of wanting to make someone smile, someone considered a strength? So pay attention to that way of being. It's kind of like, you know, in the superhero origin story where the superhero discovers their superpower and it's been within them all along and they didn't realize it was there. Well, that's what it's like when you're awakened and realize and see your talent. So once you've figured out some of those natural ways of being, it's time to get curious and develop them. It's time to learn more about that so that you might strengthen that part of you. If you've taken one of those assessments, then take time to read the results or get a coach to help you unpack them so you can learn more about them. To develop them, you need to flex that muscle by putting yourself in places where you can strengthen that part of you, where you can learn more about it. Because just like a muscle, it starts out as just raw potential, but the more you work it and find ways to play with it and find ways to engage with it, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And if you don't, you'll forget it's a part of you. It'll wither and die, and how sad would it be for that part of you not to be a part of the world? So developing in you is something you need to work at constantly, thinking at new ways to point it at things you could do, new ways to develop that talent and that strength. So you've woken up, you've developed it, now what do? Now you are empowered. You are empowered to aim it at anything that crosses your path. Now, it doesn't mean there might not still be hard work, because there will be. But when you aim your strengths, it helps you be successful. So as I thought about how I prepared for this talk, I was able to see all my strengths at play. Learner, obviously, because I have so many ideas, I can't wait to share them. But things like arranger, my ability to think about how things might fall into place, helped me strategically plan my talk. My idea of connectedness helped me see that, we're all here for a reason. And the things that led me to this point is filled me with purpose and making me feel empowered to use my strengths. Thinking about the different ways that I gather information, my input, my inbox and my tabs are open on my computer like you wouldn't believe, but it's all the information I couldn't wait to share. All those pieces fell into place for helping me get prepared today. So same thing with you. If you're able to productively aim yourself at any situation, not only will you feel more successful, you'll get a whole lot more done, you'll be more innovative and creative, and you'll also have a lot more fun. So as you are empowered, think about putting yourself in your place of most potential. If you discover that you love people, please don't sit in a study room by yourself looking at flashcards when you get ready for a test. If you discover that you love ideas, volunteer to lead the brainstorming session on a project. That is your place of most potential. So once we're awakened and we're nurtured, we're then empowered to be who we were meant to be. Maybe instead of asking the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? We might start asking the question, how might you be more of you when you grow up? Awakened, nurtured, and empowered. Instead of chasing what the world tells you to be, embracing your innate way of being. Finding where your strengths and talents intersect with the need of the world, you being even more of you, let that be your legacy. Thank you.